Live from Gerber, this is the Locktune Podcast. I'm Amy.
And I'm Mel.
Today we are reading The Mysterious Study of Dr. Sex, which is a short story that was published after Gideon came out, but before Harrow came out. This story covers just a couple of hours in the lives of 13-year-old Camilla and Palamedes of the Sixth House. It's written from Camilla's perspective, and we get a lot of insight. In fact, I think the most insight we ever get into what it's like on a different house other than the Ninth. So it's a really good read.
It's a good read and a very different house than the Ninth House.
Truly.
I loved reading this. The first time I read it, I sped through because I just wanted to know what happens. That's how I read things the first time through.
Mm-hmm.
The second time through, this is a hilarious read. It's so funny.
It is funny. And it's so fun to see Cam and Pal's relationship. You know, this is many years before Canaan House, but they are like so tight already.
Yeah, it's really cute. It's like, you know, when an 8th grade best friendship kind of situation going on.
Right. Well, do you want to really quick just talk about what happens generally, and then we can kind of go over things that we noticed?
Yeah, let's do it. Summarize it for me.
All right. So basically what happens in this short story, which you would not understand at all unless you were a Locked Tomb reader. So basically it starts with Cam and Pal hanging out. A woman named Archivist Zeta comes to find them, says that she has something. She's going to open this study of this scholar who... a Sixth House scholar that's been closed for like 400 something years. So Camilla and Palamedes follow this woman down to this office. They open it up, and there's this big mystery because there's a pair of skeletal hands on the desk that are only 200-ish years old. So
210 max.
Yeah. And so everyone is like, how did they get in here? This room's been sealed for 400 years. And Palamedes and Camilla together work out that there is a skeleton in the sort of AC vent up above the office. And what had happened is that this scholar, Dr. Sex, had become a revenant about 200 years before with the help of a Fifth House adept, and had possessed the servitor skeleton that had been working near his grave, and had taken this skeleton outside of the Sixth House and through this air duct and to this grate above his old office, and gotten his hands through there because he had his last project had been working on this lictoral artifact, and he had solved the puzzle, or he had not solved the puzzle before he died, but in death had figured out how to solve this puzzle and was so obsessed with solving it that he sent that he became a revenant and sent the skeleton to basically go solve this puzzle, which is one of those little wooden block puzzles that you move them around to make a ball or make a whatever. And this one specifically is a sphere, and it's just got one little bit sticking out of the sphere. And they realize that he left this last step in the puzzle unsolved so that they could push it in and open up this box. And inside is a note, a lictoral note written on paper. And basically all of the 6 people are like so amazed by Palamedes and Camilla, and everyone's so happy. We also find out that Archivist Zeta is Palamedes' mom, which is really interesting. But that's basically what happens. They go down to this room, they solve this puzzle, everyone's pumped. But within that is so much shit that's really good.
You wonder, like, what was the purpose of this story being told? It is not at all about Dr. Sex, which, by the way, I love the recurring not sex joke that happens throughout this whole thing. They're structurally hilarious. And this, Amy, this reads to me like, is it like Sherlock? It's like a Sherlock Holmes type vibe where it's all just like deduction and reasoning and common sense and observation. And I feel like I remember reading Sherlock Holmes and people would always be amazed by Sherlock Holmes' ability to crack the case, but really he's just looking at the room and observing. And that's basically what Palamedes is doing here.
Right.
Mainly because they're not allowed to do psychometry in this space. There's a lot of bureaucracy and rules on the Sixth House, which is really fun. And yeah, we could go through it and just talk about there's some in the beginning, just a fun letter from Dulcinea as well. That is, I read this letter in the voice that Moira Quirk uses for Dulcinea in Gideon and Harrow, and it's really funny. I especially like the end where in the letter she goes, very trage. And I like Googled, I was like, what is trage?
Tragic.
And it's just tragic.
No.
But yeah, in any case, the way that the letter is presented to us is from Camilla's memory. And we also get a look at Palamedes' memory in this too. And we get this at the end as well, that Palamedes can look at something and just remember it. And that comes up in Gideon as well.
Yeah.
But basically, Dulcinea is like, they sent me away to Pro and Mia. Yeah. So Mia, assuming Mia is Protesilaus' wife, and their children, who are the same, the oldest one is the same age as Palamedes, which is cute. And she's basically complaining that everyone's tiptoeing around her and she's so bored and all of this shit. And then when she talks about Protesilaus' oldest kid, she calls him a blessed creature, which I think here means that he's a necromancer. Yeah, a blessed creature, only one with aptitude. So the eldest son of Protesilaus is a necromancer, and therefore he's scrawny.
Right.
And that's what's so tragic.
Yeah.
And then the last line of this letter is really funny because she's also complaining that this kid has taken a liking to her. He's bringing her flowers, but she doesn't have the heart to tell him that she just wishes he would bring her extramural magazines and cigarettes. And then in capital letters, underlined, says, "This is a joke."
Yeah.
Mainly, right, because Palamedes is going to just lose his mind off of Dulcinea, who has like a, blood cancer, should not be smoking cigarettes.
Right. Well, it's cool to see. We know that Dulcinea and Palamedes had this relationship through letters for many, many years. And it's cool to just get a little bit more insight into that. I'm interested. I'm not sure what Camilla thinks about Dulcinea, but she doesn't actually supply a lot of her own opinions here on what's going on with Dulcinea. I can never tell if she's jealous or if she's just kind of standoffish about it, but...
Well, it's cute. It's cute that Dulcinea addresses the letter to both of them.
Right.
I thought that was really cute. It's not just a relationship that she's having with Palamedes. It's also with Camilla.
Right. It's funny that Camilla basically chooses Pal's classes for him. And we just learned a lot about how things work in this house. It says that basically people who are not necromancers in the Sixth House get put into 3 different categories. The hot, smart ones who I guess end up doing actual
deployment.
Yeah. And then there's the smart ones who are not hot, who I don't really know what...
They just do general referral.
Right.
We'll go wherever. But if you're just attractive...
If you're just hot, you get sent to these sort of parts of the cohort that there's a lot of waiting around and boredom. So that basically they have a bunch of sex and have a bunch of babies so that they can renew the gene pool. And it's this sort of nefarious but very funny strategy that the Sixth House has to try and get more genetic material into the Sixth House. It's
so very Sixth that they would be strategic about that. I had to Google a word, and I'm going to butcher this, consanguinity. Do you know what that means?
Well, I see your note here. So yeah. No, but I wouldn't have before.
It means the fact of being descended from the same ancestor. They basically... Tamsyn Muir's vocabulary just continues to astonish me.
I know. She loves words.
Loves them and makes me love them, even though I cannot. Unlike Palamedes, I look at a new word, I look it up, I read the definition, and I immediately forget. But she's saying that these tables get narrow year by year. I wonder why they get narrower and narrower if the Six is being so strategic about spreading the genes around. So again, just like another curious thing about the population decline that's going on in these houses.
It is interesting because I feel like, they're 10,000 years old, so they were fine up till now. What changed? And Abigail says the 5th house is sort of declining, and we know the 9th house is declining. I wonder if it's...
Well, you remember the Emperor Undying says to Harrow, like, the empire is dying.
Yeah, and it's something to do... Well, it's interesting. I hope we learn more. I think we will.
Yeah. Also, there's a cute thing in here where Camilla says the warden used to joke about losing me to the Alexandrites, which are the hot and smart, which is like flirty.
Oh my god.
But anyway, great window into the 6th house up until this point. And then we meet Juno Zeta. Jeez, you have me saying it. Zeta is actually the 6th letter in the Greek alphabet, which is a cute little thing. And Zeta is a very cheerful person and very smart, and whose brain moves like a mile a minute. And again, we have no idea. At this point in the short story, we're just like, oh, this is an adult, and they're pulling Palamedes and Camilla into this exciting moment. But we don't know the relation between Zeta and Palamedes.
We do get a lot of they're talking about the bureaucracy. It's like they're, all in the office together and they're complaining about that. And she's also she asks Palamedes about his dad, and which is interesting because it's the guy she had a baby with. So,
but after learning about the 6th house and how they think about, you're like, she probably did not give birth to Palamedes. He was probably born in a vat womb.
Probably, yeah. It is also interesting because she says to Camilla, like, I won't ask about your family because, like, I see them all the time. And I think this implies that, because we know they're second cousins, so I bet that one of Camilla's parents is the sibling of Zeta, because that would make them second cousins. Sorry, not the sibling. So...
A cousin.
Yeah,
the cousin.
Yeah. So, right. So, Camilla's parent and Pal's parent are cousins. And so I bet that it's Camilla's mother or Palamedes' mother with Camilla's. Man, this is so freaking confusing. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying.
Yep.
Just hanging out with her cousin.
Yep. And so Zeta invites, Palamedes and Camilla to this unsealing, which Camilla guesses because there's a blue form, which is, again, another nod to the bureaucracy of the 6th house, which is very funny. And then there's a few paragraphs that feel not relevant at first, and then in true Tamsyn Muir style become relevant towards the end of the story around watching adepts do routine maintenance and how they do that on the house, which is they attach umbilicals to skeleton servitors and send them outside the hatches to then do maintenance on the structures. And then again, a nod to the bureaucracy saying this is really outdated, and Palamedes had suggested to the oversight body that we bring in a 9th house expert, which is also cute foreshadowing for many years from this moment. But that he didn't get very far with the oversight body. So just a lot of bureaucratic jokes throughout this.
Yeah, you can tell that Tamsyn Muir has definitely worked in an office.
Yeah, totally.
Or at least watched a lot of TV.
Yeah.
I don't actually have a ton to say about the actual mystery solving. It's cute the way it's written, and it is interesting to watch Palamedes and Camilla work together. But yeah, I actually don't have much to say about that. I mostly have stuff to say about the very end.
Yeah.
The letter and the...
Right. Well, I have one thing to say about the mystery, which, Amy kind of talked through how everything went down. But the one little thing is about Copper's role in this and about organic. I feel like things that we learn here are even more information around organic material and why that's not a thing for the 9 houses. I feel like after reading this, that the dots totally connected for me. Of course, there's a shortage of organic material because necromancy gets its power from killing organic material, because organic material is alive. It's thalergetic, and they live on thanergetic planets. That's why there's flimsy. That's why there's plastics. What's curious is that copper seems to be like a barrier. Bodies are buried in copper coffins. And I think the assumption up until this point was that there couldn't be a very strong energy transfer through copper.
Right.
And after this situation, Palamedes is like, this has implications, but like no one asks him about it and he's bummed. But I'm curious if copper's going to come up again in these stories. And I feel like it would be just like Tamsyn Muir to bring in something from this short story into the next couple of books.
For
and
sure.
If you know, you know, you know.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. She loves, just like a little bit of fan service. I love it.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I also think that, I mean, they don't have a lot of organic material because they all live on planets in our solar system that aren't Earth, where you literally can't grow shit.
Right.
So I don't know actually where they get. I think the main reason that they're conquering all these worlds is because God has this weird ass vendetta. But I also think that they literally they like import a lot of their shit from these other worlds that are still thalergetic enough to produce organic material for like food. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that they have their own. Oh my gosh, I just remember that you also had a moment where you did aquaponics.
I did. No, I didn't do it. I bought everything to do aquaponics and never set it up.
Oh my God, Mel.
Wow, blast from the past.
I know, wow. So, yeah, well, unlike Mel, these people probably have aquaponics. But, I'm sure that they have to import. Any paper that they have is made outside of the 9 houses, right?
Well, and they don't use paper because it's so rare.
Right.
I mean, any paper that you find in these houses is under lock and key.
Right.
You know, any paper on the 6th house, and we see that towards the end, people fucking freak out and they're like, we must preserve it. There was a cute little description of this office where the like flimsy top of the desk was made to look like wood.
Right.
So like I'm imagining like a plastic roll top on this desk that has a wood grain print on it, which was funny.
It's cute. Yeah, and speaking of paper, I think the big reveal is when they open this. Pal finishes the puzzle, pushes this piece in, it opens up, and inside this like sphere of wood, of real wood, is paper, is a letter. And he only gets a quick glance at it before everyone sort of swarms and does this shit because they're so intense about protecting paper. But because Palamedes remembers everything, he has a photographic memory. He remembers what he read, which, should I just read?
Yeah, you should just read it.
All right. And the paper says it's a literal note. I don't know how they know this, but
I don't think they know it's written by a lictor, though. It's not written by a lictor.
I think that they know it's a literal artifact because that's what Dr. Sex was working on. Like, they knew he was working on a literal artifact. So they assume the paper inside of it. Like this puzzle, which is just like one of those stupid puzzles you get.
Yeah. It's like the sunglasses. It's like this like dorky thing from our universe, that make it into this one anyway.
Yes. Well, we also know that it's a literal note because of what is written. Although, well, I'll read it. It says, "Darling girl, tomorrow you will become a lictor and finally go where I can't follow. I want you to keep this letter when you are far away and think of me and want me and can't have me. And know that no matter how far you travel, nor how long the years feel, the one thing that never stays entombed is... ... Because he couldn't see it all, so he only saw the beginning. How much would you give to read the rest of this freaking letter?
I really hope we get to read the rest of this letter someday. And again, it'll be like an if you know, you know thing. There's so much to say about this. Also, just right before this letter, Camilla's kind of narrative is that over the years, Palamedes always maintained that it was a love letter and that he should know he wrote a lot of them and never got any back, which kind of totally breaks my heart. But here's what I deduce from this letter. We don't know who exactly it's to, but we could presume that whoever wrote this understands that when someone becomes a lictor, they cannot return to the 9 houses.
Well, I don't think they knew that back then.
But they're saying you're going to have to be far away. You're going to want me and you can't have me.
I think this is a cavalier writing to their necromancer.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you think.
Yeah, I think I took it as like they figured out the process. And I bet that this is, well, I don't know who it would be.
I mean, this could be, so
I thought about
one
Christabel
theory,
too.
it could be Christabel to Mercy Morn because it's being imposed on Mercy Morn.
Right. Yeah, I think it must be a cavalier to their necromancer. And this implies that actually there must have been a moment where they all realized what had to happen and were like, oh my god. And they probably had all these talks together about how could we actually kill our cavaliers. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was Christabel writing to Mercy Morn because she knows that she and Alfred are going to make this suicide pact. But
Right.
I mean, but it must.
If we're, so,
Who else would it be?
I mean, it can only be a couple of people, right? So this could be addressed to Mercy Morn. It could be addressed to Cassiopeia. It could be addressed to Cytherea. Those are the 3, like, she, her pronoun characters.
I feel like it has to be Cassiopeia or Mercy Morn.
Yeah, you're right. It can't be Cytherea because that would be, the timing is off.
Well, I think that Loveday was just not. I thought it was implied that Loveday was not. I don't know. I think. Well, maybe. Who knows? I bet it's Christabel to Mercy Morn.
Yep. I think that's our best guess. Although it's funny because my original interpretation of this was not a cavalier to a lictor. But I guess it would make sense because who else knows about the lictoral process other than a cavalier?
Yeah, I guess that they must have had people working with them. So it could be that one of them had a relationship with one of the necromancers. But I just like, there's too much shit about the cavaliers and the necromancers. It has to be a cavalier. I feel like. Otherwise, it would be kind of weird.
Yep.
Oh, it could be Anastasia also.
No, I think...
Like, who knows, right?
But Samael and Anastasia were working out true lictorhood.
Oh, that's true.
Like,
they didn't know.
There wasn't an assumption that Samael was going to die
right.
necessarily. So I feel that the theory that it's Christabel to Mercy Morn is like really solid.
Mm-hmm. Oof. All right. Well, I'm telling you, I want more on these gals.
I know.
And then let's just really quick touch on the very last line. So I'll just read the rest of it. It says, I don't have a copy anymore, referring to the letter. He and I burned the transcript to keep from getting caught with it. He didn't need one anyway, nor did I. Palamedes remembers everything. That was his problem. I always remember him. That's mine. I know.
We don't know when who Camilla is communicating this to and when. Because, in Harrow, presumably it's Gideon catching Harrow up on what's been going on. And maybe at some point we'll reveal, like, at what point in this greater timeline Gideon is explaining to Harrow all of the events of what happened in Harrow the Ninth. Mm-hmm. I'm curious if... And can we confirm that this was written before Harrow? I'm not sure, but part of me almost wonders if Camilla is telling this story to Nona. I don't know. It's just like a fun wondering. There's also really quickly something that gets referred to in the Nona excerpts that's in here where when they're solving the mystery, Camilla says, I started putting my weight on one foot, rolling my center of gravity forward, then on the other, helps me think. And in the Nona excerpts, I think Nona talks about how she can tell the difference between Camilla and Palamedes, even though they're in the same body, because Camilla's always moving.
Right.
And again, just consistency here is beautiful.
Yeah, I think even in Gideon, there's a part where she's about to duel Marta, and she was kind of like bouncing back and forth, and then Palamedes is like, go for it, and then she kind of like is still finally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and I don't know if this gives any more credence to the theory that Camilla has feelings for Pal. It might, like romantic feelings. But I do feel like whatever she feels for him, he is her everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. She could also be telling this story to Judith. Just thinking about that last part in, Judith's short story and Harrow and Judith like confronting Camilla about her unhealthy relationship with Palamedes.
Right.
And Judith kind of tells Camilla a story. And, part of me does wonder. Yeah, I just wonder, who is Camilla talking to? In any case, this was a really fun read.
Yeah, it was.
These two characters are like also some of the best characters, I think, in these books.
Yeah, definitely. They're so easy to love. I'm excited to get more of them in. So I think that's probably it for today. Thank you guys again for joining us. And if you liked listening, please rate and review us. We'd love to hear your questions and comments and thoughts about, especially Dr. Sex. Like, I feel like there are a lot of questions that we still have about it. So send us any information or any thoughts that you have to our website, lockedtombpod.com, or to our Twitter, which is @lockedtombpod. And we release episodes on Tuesdays and
most of the time.
I'm Amy.
I'm Mel.
And we'll see you next time here at the Locked Tomb Podcast.